Today, I want to talk to you about why there is always movement when you're manifesting your SP, even when you think that there is no movement. So, this is something that I come across very, very often in my coaching, and it seems to me like lately people have been coming to me a lot more with complaints of this kind. I'm getting no movement, I'm manifesting my SP, but I'm not seeing any movement. Or I'm getting hot and cold movement. Or I'm getting a little movement and then it stops. So I want to talk about that. I want to help you dismantle this whole idea of no movement and start understanding why there is always movement, even when you don't see it in the 3D, when you're manifesting your SP. And I'm also going to give you proof and evidence that this is not just a feel-good statement. This is not just a statement through which to sugarcoat things, to help you feel better perhaps, or to keep you from giving up in your manifesting journey, or to keep you stuck watching manifesting content. It's not any of these things. It is a true idea, a true principle. It has everything to do with how you perceive reality, how you view things, how you define movement, lack of movement, and so on. And so I think this is a very, very important video to make today, a video where we're going to go deeper. We're going to unpack a lot of things. And I'm going to divide this video in a couple of sections, maybe 2 or 3 sections. The first section is where I'm going to explain to you why the perception of no movement is just that. It's just a perception. And how you can actually start turning around that perception by reframing it in your mind, by reframing the meaning which you give it, so that you can become much more productive and much more effective in your journey of manifesting your SP. Now, the second little section, let's call it that, I am going to do a little troubleshooting with you because indeed there is a possibility that you might be doing or not doing some things that might be sabotaging getting movement in the 3D from your SP, seeing your manifestation moving, seeing your manifestation going in the right direction. So we're going to do a little troubleshooting where I help you see perhaps some of your blind spots. And then the last section of this video, which is also very, very important, so I would really, really encourage you to stay and watch until the end, is where I'm going to give you evidence and proof, as I said, that no movement is still movement. I'm going to give you real-life examples, examples from the universe, examples from nature, examples from day-to-day life, and I'm going to prove to you why there is always movement, even if you cannot see it in the 3D, or even if you believe you do not see it in the 3D. You might have to do a little bit of reframing of how you label movement, lack of movement, what constitutes movement, and so on. Before I begin, hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have some self-study courses about manifesting your specific person. And I do have a members-only channel with a lot of perks for members, including weekly live workshops with a different manifesting topic each week, weekly live group coaching, a lot of exclusive content, monthly challenges for a chance to win a free one-on-one coaching session with me, and a lot more. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website or to my membership channel. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. So first of all, let's start with something that is very, very important. that unfortunately a lot of people don't understand in the manifesting community. And a big part of it is because a lot of coaches don't explain it. And that is the whole idea and the whole premise behind that perception of getting no movement. First of all, let me give a very, very brief definition of what no movement constitutes in the minds of people. So that can manifest in different ways for different people. Some people truly perceive the situation and the 3D reality as if there is zero movement, zero change, zero progress towards the direction that they would like to see their manifestation going. Now, other people might feel that they are seeing a lot of hot and cold. So maybe they're seeing some movement, but then it goes away. They see some progress and then they feel they're back to square one. Yet some other people might see some occasional movement, or they might have seen some movement once or twice here and there, and then it went away completely. So they're standing there wondering, what happened? What did I do wrong? And this, you guys, is exactly the whole premise and the whole umbrella assumption behind what people see, what probably you watching this video are seeing and viewing as a problem with getting no movement from your SP when you're manifesting them. So the assumption, the dominant assumption, the umbrella assumption, if you will, behind that whole idea, that whole perception of no movement is that something is wrong, that you are doing something wrong, that perhaps you're not doing enough, or perhaps whatever you're doing is not the right thing. Perhaps you need to be doing something else, or perhaps you need to be doing something more. But in any event, there is a perception and an assumption of inefficiency, inadequacy, lack of capability, lack of manifesting skills, and I think you get the gist. The idea behind it all is that I am somehow insufficient. I am somehow doing things wrong. I am somehow failing at this. So this is, you guys, the very, very first thing that we need to start dismantling. This is the first thing that we need to start dispelling when it comes to your perception that you are manifesting your SP, you're doing your techniques, you are shifting perhaps your inner states, you're doing what you feel is right or what you've been told by the manifesting coaches online, in books, and so on. And yet you are still not getting results in the sense that you're not getting movement. So there is this overarching idea of somehow I'm inadequate, somehow I'm not good enough, somehow I'm failing. This is the very first idea that we need to start getting rid of, that you are doing something wrong, that somehow you are failing. The reason why I'm saying this is very, very important to get rid of, and it's very, very important to start changing the narrative around that, the narrative of failure, the narrative of inadequacy, the narrative of something is wrong, I'm doing something wrong, I'm not good enough at manifesting, and so on, is because it adds so much resistance to your manifesting journey, to your psyche, to your mind, to your whole disposition, to your whole perception on manifestation. And ultimately, the problem with that is that it keeps you stuck. Even worse, it might make you feel that you want to give up because you're not good at this, because this is not working, because what the heck am I doing wrong? So what do I need to fix? The idea that you need to fix something because you're inadequate, because you're not good enough, pretty much keeps you stuck. It keeps you feeling disempowered. It keeps you feeling hopeless. And it keeps you from becoming a better manifestor, because obviously we can always become better, but that doesn't mean we're not good enough in the first place. So I would suggest, if you are feeling that overarching theme, which is overwhelming among the people who are complaining about no movement or intermittent movement with their SP and so on, is that instead of that whole narrative, that whole perspective of somehow I'm doing it wrong, somehow I'm failing, you want to instead be thinking along the lines of, how could I be improving? Yes, I'm actually great. Yes, even in my imperfections, I'm actually perfect. Yes, I'm doing it right. Yes, I'm doing it well enough. However, maybe I could do it even better. So what then do I tweak to make it better? What do I tweak to make myself even more effective as a manifester? How can I improve? Could I be sabotaging myself in a sense that I'm not doing myself justice because I know I've got this? I know my SP is mine. I know that my desire is a promise. I know that me and my SP are meant to be together. And yet, I'm giving in to narratives that tell me otherwise. So, how can I actually be more effective? But do get rid of the idea that you're doing it wrong, that you're not doing enough, that you're inadequate, ineffective, a failure as a manifester, and so on. Okay? That is very, very important. That is the very first reframing that needs to happen in order for you to actually become more effective as a manifester. Because if you keep yourself stuck in those narratives of, I must be doing it wrong because why on earth am I not getting movement? What usually happens is that you give yourself so much resistance that you delay the movement even more, or you sabotage the movement even more. You get in your head about things, and first of all, you don't feel good enough, but second, you also don't get the results that you want. So it's really a lose-lose situation, and it's all a matter of changing narratives in your mind, changing how you think about things, how you view things, and how you perceive things. It's all that it is. Okay, so with all that being said, let's now continue on to a second section, a second part, which I believe is also very, very important. We're going to do a little bit of troubleshooting because if you perceive that there is no movement in the 3D with your SP, then this could be, not always, I'm going to go into that in the third section, so watch until the end. But it could be, for some people, that something within yourself, something that you're holding in your inner world is being reflected to you by that lack of movement. So the first thing that you want to examine is your self-concept. Who do you believe you are? Who do you claim yourself to be? What do you think is true for you in terms of love, in terms of romantic relationships, in terms of your sense of self-worth, in terms of your confidence, in terms of your self-assurance, your self-esteem, and so on. So that is a big, big area that you actually want to start examining. If you feel that I've been trying, I've been manifesting, I've been doing my work, my inner work diligently, and yet I'm not seeing movement, or I'm only seeing inconsistent movement, intermittent movement, perhaps hot and cold, and so on. The second thing to examine, and again, this is not going to be the same for every person, so apply what applies to you, okay? The second thing that you want to be examining is your general perceptions, your general assumptions about relationships. Could it be that you feel that people are untrustworthy, for example, or that relationships require a lot of hard work, or that it doesn't feel normal or natural to feel loved and for other people to express their love to you in whichever way they express their love to you? So these are all assumptions and perceptions, and these are just a very small example of an infinite number of assumptions and perceptions that you could be carrying around with you. It might not just be one thing, it might be multiple things. And you want to give an honest and genuine look into that area as well, because it's actually quite common for a lot of people to sabotage themselves based on general ideas that come from their social conditioning, for example, or come from the way they grew up, or come from their environment, from the people they are around, which might not necessarily even be true. But these are ideas and perceptions and assumptions that you might have believed and accepted without question, and now you have made them your own. So if these ideas and perceptions actually sabotage what you are creating with your conscious manifesting, you want to get rid of them. Now, the third category here, which you would like to examine, is your perceptions and your assumptions about you and your SP, the relationship between you. For example, do you see them as someone stubborn, as someone who doesn't commit easily, as someone who never changes their mind, as someone who says something and then will never say otherwise? They will just stay there and they will never change anything. These are some very, very common examples, what I hear from people, especially those people who feel like they're getting no movement. there is usually some sort of an idea of stubbornness, a narrative of if they wanted to, they would, a narrative of they're not interested enough, or perhaps they don't change their mind very easily, or they're ignoring me, or they're not choosing me. So usually it's a combination of a bunch of things. And I find that for a lot of people, it can be a combination of self-concept, general ideas, general assumptions about other people, about the world in general, life in general, but also specific assumptions, specific stories, and specific narratives about their specific person. Now, I will say here very, very briefly that I do have a self-study course. It's called Elevate Your Self-Concept to Speed Up Your SP Manifestation. And that helps you distinguish exactly what these narratives are that you may be holding as true within yourself that could be sabotaging you. Now, with all that being said, let us come to what I believe is the most important part of this video. Because there is every chance, you guys, especially if you've been doing your inner work for a while, if you have been working on yourself for a while, if you feel that your self-concept is pretty much on point, if you feel that maybe some old narratives that you have about you and your SP, or about the world in general, relationships in general, that maybe were sabotaging you in the past, are now gone from within you, and you are rid of them by now. So there's every chance and every possibility, if you have been doing some inner work for a while, that there are no longer any blocks, there are no longer any sabotaging factors, if you will, that you need to tackle, that you need to get rid of, that you need to change and shift in order to get your movement with your SP, your desired movement with your SP. And I'm saying this because if you are generally aligned with your desire of being with your SP, and if you feel that you are aligned, and if you are aligned, you will know it. You will know it by how you're feeling inside, okay? So there is every possibility that if you are feeling aligned already with your desire, at least for the most part, that you're not doing anything wrong. And that what you perceive as no movement is actually your bridge of events that is bringing you to your manifestation, is bringing you to your SP desire, is bringing you closer and closer every day to being with your SP, being committed to by your SP, being exclusive with your SP, being married to your SP, and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to convey is, don't necessarily assume, unless there is a reason, unless there are obvious reasons, again, you are going to know it. If your state is not aligned, you're going to know it by how you're feeling. But if in general, you're feeling like you've done your inner work and your state is more or less aligned with your desire, don't assume that you still have things to fix, that you're doing things wrong, that you are inadequate, ineffective, and so on. And by talking to a lot of coaching clients and to a lot of people in general in the manifesting community, I have come to certain conclusions. One conclusion and one observation, if you will, that I have come to is that a lot of people erroneously, mistakenly believe that movement from your SP, whatever constitutes movement for you, needs to be something constant, needs to be something that you get, if not 24/7, at the very least, every day, at the same amount, the exact same amount, to the exact same extent, the exact same degree. And this, you guys, could not be further from the truth. So what I'm conveying here, the takeaway message from this video, is that if you have been doing your inner work and you are feeling aligned with your desire, your problem of not getting movement from your SP may not be that you're still doing something wrong or you're still not doing enough, you need to be doing something more. But instead, the problem might be in how you are defining movement, in how you are perceiving what constitutes movement and what does not constitute movement. And the way I want to start you perceiving movement is similar to how you would perceive a pendulum. What does a pendulum do? It swings back and forth, right? It swings from one direction to the other, and then back to the other direction, and so on. So imagine then that the 2 points in which that hypothetical pendulum swings right? The back and forth, the one side and the other side, are the points where you're getting movement in the 3D and you're seeing movement from your SP, whatever that might be. Now, the parts in between, right, as the pendulum swings from one side to the other, these are the parts where you're not seemingly getting movement. Seemingly being the key word here, because there is always movement behind the scenes, and I'm going to be explaining that in the next few minutes why that is. But the point I'm making is that assuming that constant movement is the norm, not just with your SP, but in any area of life, is actually an erroneous assumption. It is actually not normal. Constant movement, you guys, is not normal. Movement in life, that includes relationships, that includes your SP, that includes your interactions with your SP, much more resemble a pendulum, or if you want, a cycle, right? Where you have cycles where you go from up to down and down to up and so on, are much more the norm of how the universe operates, the norm of how life operates, the norm of how nature operates, and so on. And of course, that includes relationships, and of course, that includes your SP. So assuming that constant, uninterrupted, undisrupted movement without any fluctuations, without any degrees of variation, day to day, moment to moment, is the norm, is, you guys, the biggest fallacy there is. And so this is why when you are manifesting your SP and you're not perhaps seeing the exact same consistent movement day to day or even moment to moment, and you start panicking and you start freaking out and you start attributing that to you and blaming yourself and telling yourself, I must be doing something wrong. What more do I need to be doing? What else do I need to be doing? You are forgetting a very, very important universal principle. That movement is never completely constant, completely undisrupted, completely uninterrupted, exactly the same, to the exact same degree, and to the exact same extent, moment to moment, day to day, and so on. This, you guys, would be impossible. And I'm going to give you some proof and evidence on why that is. Start thinking, for example, about your own life. How is your day-to-day life? Is every day the exact same as the previous day, or the exact same as the next day? Or even within the context of one day, one 24-hour period, are you doing the exact same things all the time, moment to moment? The answer is obviously no. You have times when you go to work for a period of time, or perhaps if you're a student, you go to school. Then you go home or you go somewhere else, you meet your friends, you do other things, you do things that you enjoy, or you do chores, or you run errands. So depending on whatever it is that you have to do on each day, you do it accordingly, you act accordingly. You might have to do the grocery shopping one day. Another day, you go home right after work and you're very tired and you fall asleep. The next day, you go out to dinner with a friend. So again, this is proof and evidence that even your own days vary from each other. Your day-to-day varies from yesterday's day. Your day-to-day is going to vary from tomorrow's day, and so on. Even within the context of the same day, as I said, you have periods of time when you are working, periods of time when you are spending time with your family and your friends, periods of time when you're eating, periods of time when you're showering, periods of time when you're spending time with your SP, periods of time when you're out doing your hobbies, periods of time when you're watching a movie, periods of time, long periods of time, every night where you're sleeping. So you see then that your own life does not operate in constancy. It does not operate in sameness. It does not operate in complete uniformity. Why then are you expecting the movement from your SP to be constant, uninterrupted, undisrupted, exactly the same every single moment, every single day? And if it's not, you panic and you label that as a problem, when it is anything but a problem. It is an expression of how things normally work. Now, I would also encourage you to think about nature, because nature very, very much operates in the exact same way. For example, we have the 4 seasons. It's not winter all the time. It's not winter all year long. It's also not summer all year long. Also, you have day succeeding night and night succeeding day every single day. You also have different weather and different weather phenomena. You might have sunny days and rainy days and snowy days, or maybe not, depending on where you live. But in any event, you don't have the same weather day after day after day after day, year round and every day, all day long. You may have, for example, a very prolonged period of drought, a very prolonged period of very hot weather, and then it is succeeded by monsoons, okay, or a lot of rain. Why does that happen? That happens because the earth is balancing itself. That's why it happens. So there is always the principle of balance and the principle of cyclicity behind everything, in how the nature operates, in how the universe operates, in how life in general operates. And that, you guys, goes for everything from your life, from other people's lives, from nature, from the universe, from everything that you see and observe and you experience. And of course, it includes our relationships with other people. And the exact same goes for your relationship with your SP. Even if you were in a committed relationship, you wouldn't be getting the exact amount of movement and action all the time. Why? Remember the principle of the pendulum. Because there are times of action and then times of rest. Because your SP, as well as you, also have to catch up with other parts of your life, with your work, with your friends, with your finances, with your rest, right? So to assume that the normal is to get the exact same amount of attention, the exact same amount of action and movement, day after day, every day, all the time, moment after moment, is the exact opposite of normal. It is not normal not to have fluctuations. It is not normal not to have different movement at different times. So this is what I'm wanting to convey with this video. If you are someone who is seeing maybe occasional movement with your SP, and yes, maybe that movement could get more consistent. Of course, you could manifest that. But if you're invariably expecting the exact same amount of movement and you tend to get disappointed if you don't get it, then what is wrong is not you or your manifesting capabilities. What is wrong is your definition and your perception of movement and nothing else. Which actually is very good news, because once you reframe your perceptions and your definitions, you are going to feel much happier, and you are going to exponentially boost your manifesting capabilities and your manifesting successful results, because you no longer have that resistance that you were feeling towards, I'm getting no movement, I'm getting inconsistent movement, what is wrong, what am I doing wrong, and so on. So I want you to keep this, you guys. And I also want you, before we wrap up, to consider one more point, one more thing. Why are we saying that no movement is still movement? We are saying that for a very valid reason. We're not saying that to sugarcoat things. We're not saying that just to make you feel better, just to give out a feel-good statement. It's nothing like that. Again, you want to remember the principle of the pendulum. The pendulum swings and gives movement, and in between the swings, as it reaches the points in between, it's preparing for the next swing. It's preparing for the next movement. This is exactly the case also with your SP, your manifestation, your relationship with them. You get movement, and then if you get a little bit of silence, or if you get a little bit of less movement, don't take it as inconsistency. Instead, start viewing it, start seeing it as the 3D and reality preparing you for your next movement. The 3D and reality preparing you for the next swing of the pendulum, so to speak. Things, you guys, always happen behind the scenes. Your SP might get ideas in your head that they start materializing for you, and maybe you don't immediately see the movement in the 3D, but you will definitely see it further down the line. Maybe things happen, they come across someone, they meet someone, they have a conversation with someone, and that is a bridge to your manifestation that, because you're not seeing it in the 3D, You are assuming that there is no movement, there is no change, or there is inconsistent movement, whereas all along you are being prepared by your higher self, by the universe, however you resonate with it, for the next movement. In other words, stillness is your preparation for springing forward. And once you have sprung forward, you may get a period of stillness as you prepare for your next movement. Now, the periods of stillness don't have to be long periods of time. It could be moments, minutes, hours, a couple of days, and so on. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a long pause. I'm not saying that at all. But start observing how life evolves, how life develops, how life unfolds. And you're going to notice that it's always the same pattern. It's always some action followed by rest and stillness. Then that rest and stillness is followed by more action. Then there is rest and stillness again, and there is more action again, and so on and so forth in perpetuity. This is, you guys, how the universe works, how the world works, how nature works, how our own life works, how our own relationships work. And so this is your proof that even when you're not seeing visible movement in the 3D, you are still getting movement because the bridges are still at work, the bridges of events, bridges of incidents, and you are being prepared for your next movement. You are being prepared for your next spring forward. So don't see the perceived lack of movement as a problem. See it as part of the process. See it as part of the game. It is part of it. You're getting movement, and then you're given a little rest. And then you're going to get movement again. Then there may be some rest again. And that is fine. And that is actually great. Because imagine a world where there is always only action and there is no rest and there is no stillness. We would all go crazy. So if you are perceiving that there is no movement in your manifesting journey of your SP, think again. Reframe it. Start viewing it from a different perspective. Realize that you are always in the bridge of events. Movement is always happening behind the scenes, whether you see it in the 3D or not, whether it's visible or not in the 3D, and that even some seeming stillness is movement in itself and in its own very, very unique and special ways, because it is preparing you for the next bridge, it is preparing you for the next step, and it is preparing you for your next action and your next spring forward. This is what I want you guys to keep in mind. When you start feeling that you're inadequate or you're not getting movement and you start feeling frustrated, disappointed, discouraged, you need to see the lack of movement as movement because it is exactly what it is. Hopefully, this video has helped clarify things. It has given you a different perspective in which to view things. It has given you some food for thought. It has given you some new ways to look at things and at reality because our ego tends to get in the way and it tends to want to dominate the conversation, but unfortunately, it's usually wrong. So hopefully, at the end of this video, you now have a different perspective of your situation with your SP, of your perhaps inconsistent movement, if you are perceiving it as inconsistent movement, why it happens, and hopefully that will help you to stop attaching that discouraged meaning to it, that disempowered meaning to it, to what you perceive as lack of movement, and instead start seeing the stillness and the rest as part of the process, as a strength rather than as a weakness, as a good thing rather than as a problem. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.